Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliano, and Cliff.
Hi, you're listening to the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. It's Game Week 13. We're in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. My name is Mills, and I'm very pleased to say this week I'm joined by JP and the ever-present Quigliano.
Hello there.
Good evening.
Straight away, a little godlike reference for Quigliano there. How are you doing, sir?
Good, mate. Just plotting how I'm going to win this season. Alan Hansen said you can't win anything with kids. However, there is one now amongst Quigliano Jr. is born, and I'm just plotting how I'm going to win this league with kids. There you go.
Congratulations, wow. Quigliano, and good excuse, I suppose, to not be on the podcast last week.
Yeah, I think it's legitimate.
Very legitimate. It'll be interesting to see how you stand up with the lack of sleep and so on, and the pooey nappies and everything else that comes with having children. You think you're up for the test, do you? You're up for that task?
I think already Quigliano Jr. is potentially a better manager than most of the players in our mini league. So yeah, I think I'm up to it. Assistant manager has been born.
Okay, I mean, it's a very bold shout for someone so young, but we'll see. We will see indeed. And JP,
if you're good enough, you're old enough. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Wenger said it, and standing by it.
So possibly the youngest ever FPL player.
Yeah.
Okay, JP, and how are you? Have you got over last week's embarrassment?
Not fully, in all honesty. And in reference to Quigliano's firstborn son, I actually think he could probably beat me right now on our league at the moment. So, no, we're going through a bumpy patch, but they say you've got to get back up and keep going. So that's what we'll do.
I mean, I did look at your game week rank halfway through this game week, JP, and it was about 3.2 million. You'd sunk to new lows.
Yeah, I mean, you were a bit premature with that because I didn't have several of my best players not playing at that point. So let's not get too aggressive with our attack, Millsy.
Who were those best players left to play?
Well, Costa and Hazard. I mean, pretty big, significant players.
Well, Hazard got 4 points.
Costa got 9, so...
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
I'm looking at your team, JP, and it's hideous.
I mean, JP, I'm also going to quantify what I've just said. That your finishing game week rank last week was 3.498 million.
Yeah,
there's only 4.1 million in the game, and half of them don't even play.
29 points and a -4,
so effectively 25.
I've heard two facts. I've heard JP's team is hideous, which is true, and the fact that I am 3.4 million in the country, in the world, wherever. I
mean, Andy Goodlander has been on Twitter, and he, good friend of the show, our resident golf pro, and he said, be sure to inform JP of all the suspensions before the podcast this week, Mills. So, so hopefully you've done your homework this week, JP, because... I mean, it was the YouTube subscribers that were the least happy. Lots of negative comments on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll tell you that one. Hold me hands up and I'll move past it. We all make mistakes.
We do. It's how you recover from them. So it's great to see you finish 3.5 millionth in the world. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
Well done with that. It was a funny old game week, wasn't it, last week? Not a great one for most people, if we're being honest. I think the average points was 40, which, it's not great, is it? So
I think it was all the players that have invested in cheap defenders and cheap goalkeepers were rewarded. So your Albion clean sheet, your Bournemouth clean sheet, Southampton Liverpool was clean sheet, Sunderland Pickford. I mean, I've only waited for a fair few games, and then they all came home at once. So it was a little reward for those that have held out and kept the cheap defence.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Chelsea defence continues as well. I think that's 6 clean sheets in a row now, and they do look pretty solid, don't they, at the back?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do.
Okay, so and a great result for Albion on Monday night as well, and I saw some of that game, and they did look pretty good, as much as Burnley looked pretty awful.
Well, Burnley got a tough fixture this week in Man City, so Could be a few tips coming out of there very shortly.
Okay, so we'll get onto that pretty soon. Coming up later in the show as well, I'll be talking about our yearly Black Friday special. If you've not had enough of Black Friday yet, we've got a fantastic FPL membership offer for you this week. So we'll be talking about that.
When are you going to start that?
It's actually already started, Quigliano.
Oh, right, it's gone early. It's not Black Friday then.
If it's good enough for Amazon, it's good enough for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, other global superstores are available, so... but, lots of them seem to be doing it this year. It seems to be a weekly thing, so why not jump on that bandwagon and reward our favourite listeners, the premium ones. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Quigliano, the honour's back with you this week.
I've mentioned the fixture. I'm looking at Burnley City. There's plenty of decent fixtures to choose from in terms of the Gary of the week. I could have gone to Liverpool Sunderland because you'd back Liverpool there. I could have gone Arsenal Bournemouth. Plenty of options there as Arsenal at home. But Burnley losing 4-0 to Albion makes me very interested in that City fixture. And rather than just go for the obvious one of Aguero, I'm going Kevin De Bruyne as this week's guaranteed performer. World-class midfielder, involved in most things, and I think he's going to have a good game week. So there you go, KDB.
Okay, yeah, I do like that. JP, thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoke about him before, haven't we? And I think he's coming back to his form yet again. Yeah, totally agree, Quigliano. World-class player.
Okay, and I'm just taking a look now at the Man City team that's gone out there tonight, and obviously the big guns are in there. So KDB, Silva, Sterling, Aguero, they're all in there this for the game against Mönchengladbach. So it'll be interesting to see how they sort of cope with that. We've seen them do it before, but it is an early kick-off on Saturday, so slight concern maybe on rotation, or you think that's you've garried him, so obviously you're not concerned, Quigliano. Let's go on to the Xabi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm judging that this moment in time. So KDB could go and break his leg now. He wouldn't be the Gary of the week, but that fixture is the guaranteed fixture of the week.
I mean, if he did break his leg, JP would probably put him down as long shot. So
yeah,
yes, yeah. No,
really, that risky? Yeah. That's a guarantee, sure.
That risky.
But speaking of long shot, then, as far as I'm aware, he's not suspended. Christian Benteke. Goes to Swansea. I've got him in my team. I want to get rid of him, but I actually look at that fixture and there's just something, that gut is just telling me, hold on for one more week because Benteke is going to do something. So he's going down as a long shot.
I mean,
it might be wishful thinking, but it's a long shot.
That is true. It's not as long as JP's last week, but it is a long shot given the fact that I think Crystal Palace, it's been documented quite widely on the media this week that they've got the worst form in the whole of the Football League for 2016. So in terms of that, it does look a very long shot. But
they could lose 4-3, but if Benteke gets a hat-trick, everyone will be saluting me and Sushant will be blowing up Twitter with gifs.
Okay, I mean, Sushant has been on Twitter this week, so we'll get to Sushant, our producer, later. Okay, we'll leave it at that. It's a very long shot. It's not one I'd personally be going for, but fair enough, Quigliano. You've predicted these things before. Where are we going with the Delia?
Well, I'm calling out a player that a lot of money was spent on this summer, Moza Sissoko. Or Musa Sissoko. Again, pronunciation, not my strong point. But Sissoko, I watched Spurs last night get dumped out of the Champions League. He came off the bench, and I just thought, what have they bought there? How much money has been spent on him, and what has he contributed? Absolutely nothing. They're out of the Champions League. I don't see him getting in that team above some of the other players. So, Delia, where are you? Let's be having you. Sissoko, where's that World Cup player that we saw this... Sorry, not World Cup, the Euro player that we saw this summer. Thoughts?
JP?
I like that. I think that's really, really smart. I hadn't thought of him, actually, as a Delia, until you just said it, Quigliano. Like it.
Great analysis, JP. I'm so glad we've got you on this week. I mean, Quigliano, for me, again, he's you've hit the nail on the head. I don't see him getting in that team at all, particularly not this week against Chelsea. But for £30 million, what on earth were Spurs thinking buying a player like that?
I mean, Everton must be rubbing their hands together.
Yes, they must.
The one thing as well, just quickly, I like about that Delia as well is that he is a player with the capability to answer the Delia shout. He is capable of very good things. So I feel like now Quigliano just called him out. He is capable of producing something good. So he's got to prove it pretty soon to please Quigliano.
I guarantee he's listening, and that's probably...
I imagine so.
It's offended him.
Yeah.
So you may see a reaction, but I just think that was a poor bit of business. If I was playing Football Manager and I did that, I would not be happy with myself.
No, you wouldn't, would you? Not at all. No. Okay, I mean, Pochettino maybe needs to have a word with himself. So, okay, let's move on. Side tips. I feel there could be plenty this week. It's a much nicer looking set of fixtures this week than it was last week.
Yeah, and I apologise because this is fixtures based. Most players are going to go, I've already got them in my team. You don't need to tip them. So I'm just talking fixtures. City, got to be back in City players. KDB, Aguero. Probably most people have got Gundogan, seeing the way his price shot up. You've got to be holding on to those this week. It's not the fixture to be removing any. The same with Arsenal. Sanchez, Ozil, Walcott, and potentially Giroud now is going to force himself back into that team. I think you've got to be looking at what those players for this fixture. And also then the Liverpool playing Sunderland at home. It's Coutinho, Mane, Firmino, and maybe Lallana as well. Those are your options. Those are immediate side tips. So I'm just literally bundling those together. I imagine most of you have got them in your team. Elsewhere, I'm tipping Kane. Okay, forgotten player, back with a couple of goals recently. He's on Penos. He is a decent player. He is expensive. So whether you're brave enough to go for him ahead of someone like Costa, I don't know, but Kane's an option for you to try and steal a yard on other people. I think looking at the other fixtures, you've got Mahrez, a player that, again, still got potential, and they've got a decent fixture in Middlesbrough. Rondon set the world alight. Again, they were playing Burnley, but they've got another good fixture in Hull. I think Rondon can't be ignored. Mata is a player that is performing well in a Man United team that is struggling for goals. I think they've got a decent fixture in West Ham. And I've also got here Pereira at Watford, former Quigliano tip. He is a good player there, and they've got Stoke at home. I think there could be goals. And there we go. I'm done. I've wrapped it up very, very quickly.
No, I think that's very good work. That is Quigliano. We're going to be back with more right after this.
You are listening to Mills and Quigliano on the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Okay, we're back. JP, you've got something special for us this week.
Come prepared, hasn't he?
I have. Well, you know what? After last week, I needed to bounce back and contribute a little bit more. So I've come up with my own bit of a game here. It's called a steal of a deal. So I'm going to mention players who are exceptionally cheap, but actually might not only allow you to get better players in the team, but might also score points. Can
I ask just before, if the word steal and deal didn't rhyme, do you think we'd still be doing this feature?
I think the chances would be drastically reduced. However, they do rhyme, and therefore we will continue.
I can just see JP was sat there thinking, what can I do for this podcast? And then steal and deal just went together, and that was it. The light bulb just was above his head. But let's roll this. Come on, let's go.
But more importantly, at the moment, we've had a lot of debate about which midfielders to put in because there's so many good midfielders, KDB, Hazard, Sanchez, etc. Well, in order to get those in, you've got to have some cheap options as well. So I'm going to throw a few out there. My first one is MacArthur at Crystal Palace. Now, Millsy, you spoke about their record being quite poor recently, but I think Swansea is the opportunity for them to turn that round. Now, MacArthur costs a measly 5.0 million. That's 5.0 million.
So
the
5.0, yeah?
5.0 million. Yeah, I wanted to exaggerate that. I wanted to exaggerate how cheap that is. He's been scoring quite well. He's a guaranteed starter week in, week out, so you're going to get your 2 points. He's also had several weeks where he's been getting 15 or 8 points through scoring some goals as well. He's
had 2 weeks, but yeah, go on.
3 actually.
No, he's had 2.
He's had 2 where it's been double figures.
Oh no, but I said 8 points as well once, so I did say.
Okay.
I didn't say double
No,
figures.
go on. I'm being rude. Carry on.
Yeah, that was no. I was right there. And so a good option if you want to get another midfielder into the team. My second mention of the evening is Victor Anichebe. Granted, they're playing Liverpool this weekend. Although, is that a potential for goals conceded? Well, yeah, because Liverpool don't really keep clean sheets. He's cost 4.
Tell that to Lovren.
Yeah, I know. He costs 4.6 million. Very, very cheap options. Now, if you're someone like me who's trying to figure out ways that you can get in KDB, Hazard, Sanchez, you've got to have some cheap options, and I've just given 2 pretty good ones there. Back to you, Mills.
Okay, I mean, is this going to be a weekly feature, JP?
Well, that's up to you, mate.
Okay.
So the theme is what? It's steal or deal?
Steal of a deal. So deals that are really cheap. So players that are so cheap that but still could score points.
See, I think you've missed out Matt Phillips there of Albion.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of good weeks. Looking at he's had 13 and 14 points at 5.1. I mean, Stanislas, decent. Matic.
Well, could I just stop
Zaha's an option. Moses.
I mean, absolutely agree with Quigliano, but just coming back to the name, I think you've missed a trick there, JP.
What's that?
I think you should have called it Steal or No Deal.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
You know, you get the steal,
like
you
that
get the steal bargain, or you can't make the deal. So it works
well, you
better
say,
for me.
no deal. I don't like it. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
let me just say something. First of all, to Quigliano and Mills, thank you for your contribution to my new idea, and I think you've made that better. Which shows
it's now Mills's idea, really, isn't it?
No, not true. No, it shows.
Well, I came up with the name, so Steal or No Deal next week, I think.
Right, okay, I'm hurt, but never mind.
I've even forgotten. I've already forgotten what yours was. I mean, you spelt it wrong when you emailed it me as well, so it's dreadful.
Right, okay.
How were you spelling steal?
None of your business.
It was cheap, wasn't it? It was cheap.
Oh, cheap.
Yeah, he's wrong actually. He's lied. Yeah, it was cheap. Yeah.
So how were you spelling that? Anyway, this isn't countdown.
I like you thinking, JP, but one thing I will say.
Yeah.
To say like you're Anichebe, you're playing 3-5-2 at the minute. You're going to leave Anichebe on the bench, aren't you?
No, not necessarily. I might change. I'm thinking about changing. And more importantly, we are rolling with this new idea. We needed something a bit different, Millsy. I think we needed some more additions to the podcast.
I'm all for it. But I think you need to present that steal or no deal. 2 players, and we weigh in on those options.
I agree.
Good stuff, good stuff. We might bring Gut It Out back later. Sue Shanty's desperate for that to happen when we get the 2 of you on the podcast. We'll do that in Podcast Extra. So,
and I think also, if people, we're going to do like a sub podcast where we just plan ideas out on air and people have to listen to them.
Absolutely. It's the way forward. Right, I'm going to go to Twitter. I'm going to go to the questions. There's been lots of questions this week. I'll tell you what, there has been a lot of questions about, and it's probably on the back of no top strikers scoring last week apart from Costa, is lots of questions about strikers. Almost every question that's come in has been about strikers. So I'm going to go to this one from FPL POTUS, and he said, here's, we're struggling for questions on the podcast. Who's got the best festive fixtures? Is it Ibra, Aguero or Costa? It's almost a quiz question because I'm not sure you're going to have looked that far ahead yet, gents.
I'm literally flicking through the fixtures.
I am looking now, yeah.
Having said that, I mean, I'll tell you who hasn't got bad ones, and that would probably be Giroud if he's still fit. Okay, from Boxing Day, Arsenal go to West Brom. Well, they've got West Brom at home, Palace at home as well. And then they've got Bournemouth.
And that is a very good shout on the back of some news coming out of the Emirates today that Arsene Wenger potentially is going to be giving Alexis Sanchez a winter break. So he's potentially going to get 2 weeks off over the festive period. So Olivier Giroud could be a very good shout for that period.
I mean, the one thing that has killed me this year is Costa's 4 yellow cards.
Yeah.
And that's killed a lot of players. I'm just praying that he picks it up soon, because that's going to have to make players rejig those teams or just hold and not have him for a week because his price has obviously risen quite a lot. So if anyone's thinking of selling and to buy him back, they'll be bitten in the backside for that. There's loads of options now, I think, strikers wise, and I think it's
FPL
it's balancing the team out.
FPL Priest, a new one. I think there's always an FPL something, isn't there? It's FPL Priest this week. He's been on a few times, and he's asking Costa, Aguero, Zlatan going forward.
Aguero every time.
Aguero, yeah.
Okay, so no, not swaying from that. Fair enough.
I think Ibra's irrelevant. I don't think, even when he scores, he's not as explosive as what Aguero or Costa is. And I also think you got better chances with Kane or Giroud. And all I'd go as far as Lukaku in that. So, yeah, I don't even worry about Ibrahimovic anymore. For that price, it's not worth it.
Okay, and JP, this question's for you. It's from FPL Priest again. He wants to know, what are your hashtag FPL prayers?
My hashtag FPL prayers is that I actually get a set of tips correct, and that I can start to accumulate a decent amount of points generally. Because neither of those things are happening for me this season, Mills.
So basically, if you take the advice of a lot of what we talk about on the podcast, including things that you say yourself, then you might do better.
Yes.
Because you just seem to go against everything that you said and that you say yourself. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I've really let myself down this season so far, Millsy.
I've said last season was a growing season.
It was a growing season. I've hit a blip. However, Christmas period is coming. This was a period that I won Manager of the Month last time. I'm going to go for it again. I think it's a turning point for me.
Okay, well, we'll see. Long-time listener Trev Lyons has been in touch this week. He's one from way back last season, maybe even the season before. He's a really good question as well. Yaya Toure, one game week wonder or a promising prospect?
What does he cost?
He's not expensive. It's certainly not as expensive as he would have been last season.
I'm looking now. Hang on.
7.6. Well, I think he might potentially keep out Gundogan for everyone that's invested there. You can't ignore someone who's historically scored a lot of points, done very well at that club, and then comes back for his first game and bags 2 goals. You can't ignore that. It's just whether he's going to be allowed to play. That's the issue.
He's definitely going to be a rotation risk, isn't he? Definitely.
Yeah, I'd argue it's a little bit too soon, personally.
Okay, but he did look excellent in that game, and fair play to him for doing that. Trev Lyons also wants to know, is it the most unpredictable FPL season ever?
I think yes, and I think one of the reasons Quigliano touched on it is there's so many options. Like, so many players from different teams are doing well at different points in the season. There's not that many consistencies. You'd argue Liverpool are consistently scoring at the moment. You'd argue possibly Chelsea are doing well, but generally there's a lot of good options out there. So I think it's quite unpredictable in terms of who picks who. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's been the most changes and stuff.
I hate to go against him, but I kind of disagree in a way. But you've made some good points there in terms of the number of options, and that does make it inconsistent. But the good teams are doing well, and that is ultimately what you want. Like when I pick a team, it's fill it with as many top 4 players or top 4 clubs, that you can. So if I'm thinking like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, and City or Liverpool, as many of those players in that team as I can afford, and they're doing well. They're winning the games, and even if you have a blank, so I've got Aguero in, and let's say he goes 3 games without scoring, I trust that team is going to perform eventually, and he's going to come back and start scoring again. So I'm not going to even think about transferring him out. It's the cheaper players that I'm looking to get the points back on. So I'll let Hazard have a couple of bad game weeks and just keep him in. Same with Coutinho, same with De Bruyne. Like, those players can stay in for pretty much the whole season.
Okay, I think that was a really good analysis there, Quigliano. I'm not sure if JP was making himself an orange squash there while you were talking. Or is that just an audio blip? I'm not sure.
That was just an audio blip.
Okay. Right, gents, we're coming towards the end of the standard pod. We are going to go for some more questions in the podcast extra. We're also going to be talking our captain picks for this week. I would also just like to point out that last week, JP, I think I did say to you Jermaine Defoe was the top pick for the week, and he did pretty well, so I was quite pleased with that one. So if you want more tips like that, you're going to need to listen to the Podcast Extra. Now, to get the Podcast Extra, you're going to need to be a premium member. And it just so happens that this week we've got our biggest ever discount or sale, whatever you want to call it, on premium membership. A massive 50% off to celebrate that Christmas tradition, Black Friday.
Oh, a chance to redeem themselves, is it? Chance to win a mini league just for this by signing up now.
Well, they will get access to our premium members mini league with a £100 prize. Plus, of course, Podcast Extra, plus all the extra articles that go on fantasyfootballtips.co each week. Quigliano, guess what the code is? Guess what the promotional code is for the Black Friday sale?
Mate,
I know you don't know. I mean, you don't know it, but just,
God complex.
No, it's much more simple than that. It's Black Friday. So very inventive, I know. But if you want it, go to fantasyfootballtips.co, and there's a special article on there that will tell you all about it. It should have been Sushant. It should have been Sushant. We're going to have questions from Sushant, Andy Goodland, and probably more from FPL Priest in Podcast Extra. Gents, it's been a pleasure. If you're a cheapie, we will see you next time.
I don't even think you should say goodbye to them. But, good on you.
Okay, see you soon.
It's time to go deep. It's time for the Podcast Extra.